Hello and welcome to the show with me, Gillian Godsall. Today I'm delighted to welcome as my guest Kevin Jones, who is the founder of White Light NFTs and also KJA artist. So Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Brilliant. So you are a very interesting man. We're going to find out about what you're doing, but just to understand the background, although you were an artist, just tell me about sort of some of the crazy stuff you've done and some of the art that you've done as well.
What, me personally or the group?
Yeah, you personally. You the man.
Okay. So I guess one of the most famous things I did was the imagery for the SpyCatcher novel way back in the 80s, 1987, I believe it was, for Heinemann Australia, so that they could circumvent the government trying to ban the book. Because Peter Wright was a very naughty boy, allegedly, and was breaking the Official Secrets Act. So, so I did that. That was a sort of a bit of fame, if you like. But I guess the most famous thing I ever worked on, and it was a real pleasure for me, was working on the first of the modern era Batman films. I created the modern era Batman logo with Anton Furst, who was the creative director on the first of the modern era films in 1989. So I did numerous iterations of it in the good old days when we were working with an airbrush, and it stood the test of the time. In fact, my son plays Rocket League, and he ages ago he was playing Rocket League, and one of the options was to buy the Batman car from that era, and it came along with the logo. And so he was very pleased to be able to say, my daddy did that logo.
And even back in the day, I was reading some notes when the logo was up on bus shelter posters, people smashed the to get them.
Yeah, no, there was a bit of a craze going on. People were just couldn't wait to get their hands on a poster. So instead of buying one or finding some other legitimate way to or get hold of the poster, they were smashing bus shelters with the advertising hoarding and stealing the poster.
That's quite a claim to fame, isn't it? People were committing crimes for my art.
Yeah, it's a real shame I didn't get royalties. Unfortunately, Warner Brothers made me sign a contract, so they had ownership in perpetuity on it. And so I'd be a multi-billionaire. I think I'd probably be challenging Bill Gates right now had I had some royalties on that.
Wow, that's a bit sad, but you know.
Hey, listen, don't cry for me too much. I did about 60 different iterations and got paid a lot of money back in the day. So it was still fun. It was still a great experience. And as a kid, I was a huge 60s Batman fan. So it was like coming home for me. It was great.
Perfect. A good highlight. So looking at your LinkedIn, it's all art. In fact, there's like 2 entries. You're very unusual. Most people have multiple entries, but you have been art as your passion all your life.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's often said that's because I couldn't do anything else.
Well, a lot of people say that, but they usually say it because they're very talented at the thing that they do, which is obviously what you do. So you set up an agency because you started off with a studio with friends, and then it morphed into an agency, and you don't really do art yourself now. You manage hundreds of artists and illustrators.
Yeah, it's sort of I didn't give it up. It gave me up in terms of I just couldn't sit at a drawing board as it was back in the day and run the business alongside. It was just proved impossible. So I had to make a decision. I went into project managing and managing all of our artists. And I think long term it was a good decision, but it was hard at the time to give up.
I can imagine. So it's KJA, obviously your name, Kevin Jones, or the artist agency, KJA. You have hundreds, literally nearly 500 artists of different types. Do you have any preferred styles?
It's not really. I like shiny things and bright things. So I don't have any preference for any one of my particular artists or our artists, but sort of bright, shiny stuff with a modern style, and with artists that stand out just because of their vibrancy and color, will always grab my eye. I just love that.
You mentioned Edward Hooper, one of your favorites. Why do you like him? Hooper or Hopper? Am I saying it right?
Hopper, yeah. Hopper. I think I was attracted to Hopper because I saw his one of his most famous pieces actually is Nighthawks, and yeah, it was just an intriguing. It was a sort of voyeuristic look into what he was seeing at the time, and it made you think, what on earth was going on? What was the situation? What was the chap doing there? What was the person behind the counter doing? And it was clearly very late at night. What have they all been doing? And just the light and shade that Hopper used was, I loved that drama. Yeah, it was, and I like the voyeuristic point of view, because most of his stuff is fairly voyeuristic like that. So yeah, just
tell me then, so is Hopper alive still, or is he?
No, I think Hopper died in late 60s.
Okay.
Late 60s.
Do you have a favorite contemporary artist?
Yes. I was very lucky to be passing the Serpentine Gallery many years ago, and Chris Sofili had his show on that sort of he won the Turner Prize, and I can't remember whether he'd won it at that point in time or it was just post him winning it, and just went in and I didn't know anything about him at the time, and completely blown away with the fact that he'd used elephant dung as a part of his art. And each one of the images that he created were standing on the floor, and they were sitting on a round piece of elephant dung, and just he'd used a very thick lacquer or varnish on a lot of dots and for the imagery. And yeah, it was just so unusual and so out there that I just fell in love with him and his work.
Where did he get his elephant dung from? The zoo?
that I don't know. I'm not sure. Regent's Park Zoo wasn't very far from there, but I'm not sure whether that was the source.
It'd be unusual medium to work with, isn't it? Especially in the UK.
Yeah, and I think with all those things, as a budding artist, it's very hard to get recognized, and sometimes you need to do those sort of crazy things. And it certainly worked for him, and it left a lasting memory for me.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen it, so I need to go and have a look at it now, because elephant dung is part of an art installation. Sounds unusual. So tell me, what does art mean for you, for culture, for business, for branding? What is the importance of art? I mean, you're a man who's spent his entire career in this space. Why is it important?
I think art tends to reflect the culture at any one time. It's a sort of time capsule, and it can have a profound impact on business and the economy. Yeah, it has the power to sort of enrich our culture and help business success and enhance brand perception. It creates emotional connections and a sense of aesthetic appreciation, I guess. I think art in the workplace can, I think, boost people's morale and their whole persona, which obviously has a benefit to everybody. And the same within home environments or anywhere you experience it. I think it just tends to, if it resonates with you, it can lift your soul.
Wow. And of course, because you work in the commercial area, so it's not, people are not doing art. It's art as part of our environment, I suppose, brands and products and advertising. It's interesting. So which came first for you? NFTs, which we're going to talk about in a minute, or Bitcoin?
It's a funny story, actually. Bitcoin definitely came first before NFTs. KJA Artists was unwittingly and unfortunately the victim of, I don't know if you remember, in 2017, the WannaCry virus that took down the NHS server. And we also were struck that our website was taken down by it. And we received sort of malware ransom notes demanding payment in Bitcoin. And I was like, Bitcoin? What on earth is Bitcoin? And I did a Google search and found out what it was, but I had no idea where to get it. And our IT people said, well, there's no point paying it because they're not going to help the website. They'd completely scrambled every image on our website, and at that time there was about 40,000 images on the site.
Oh, wow.
It was a major nightmare. It was, so it put us out of operation on the site for about two years. So yeah, that was wasn't a great first encounter with Bitcoin or the associated with Bitcoin.
I can imagine. I'm surprised we're here today. But so NFTs then came into your world. How did they come into your world?
We were approached by a whole bunch of clearly very savvy business people, 2018, 2019, I guess, and they were looking for artists to create collections for them. And I was sort of new to it and green, and looked at it logistically and financially, and it just wasn't viable. They wanted to pay a couple of dollars per NFT, and it was sort of long before people were doing, had an NFT generator so that they could easily put something together. So it would have been hugely time intensive for our artists, and so we didn't get involved in it. But it's that you get to that tipping point, don't you? And we got more and more inquiries, and it sort of raised my interest enough to start doing a bit of research and really understanding the whole sort of gambit around NFTs.
So that brings me to my next question. So how do you curate and market and sell an NFT collection? How are you finding it?
Okay, so we're in the really early stages. It's taken us a long time to get to on the NFT side to where we are now, where we're about to do our first launch with a fabulous artist, just out June 24th. But as far as curating, we've got a pipeline of artists that we're looking at and curating to bring on stream and into Web3 and the NFT space. And it's all about, I guess, our experience of working with them in the past and knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are, and who would ideally, because of our knowledge of their talents, who would create something unique and different and bring something to the NFT market that hasn't been done before and lifts the brand and the quality, really. That's what we're here for. We're here to raise the bar. There's an awful lot of, there are fantastic NFTs, don't get me wrong, out there already, but there was an awful lot of rubbish when I first...
And I've created some of them.
I'm sure that's not you, Gillian.
So tell me, the event is in June. It's the House of Blocks Hurlington Club event. Tell me what's happening there and why you were there.
Okay, so House of Blocks run by the fantastic Corby here. Known Corby for a couple of years through sort of Web3 and NFT side of things, and she's created the House of Block. And so there's a huge community of people that are like-minded in the crypto NFT space, and just got to know her really well through various events that she's organized and other NFT orientated events. And over the years, we get on really, really well. And I think she's very much in the same mindset and ethos as us. She's, she wants to get into the space to be open and transparent and help and facilitate things. And we're very much in that ethos as well. We want to be completely transparent with everything that we do. And there's just been in our journey so far today, there's been so many times when we've hit a brick wall because people are just not who they claim to be in this space. And it's taken a lot to work out the wood from the trees, and Corby stands out. She's head and shoulders above an awful lot of people, and with her integrity and just her attitude to the space that we're all working in now.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, because there's an awful lot of, a lot of scammers around the place. For as much as this whole industry and the sector is about change and democratizing access and opportunities, a lot of really good things. But because there's money here too as well, it attracts a lot of less desirable folk, I suppose.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because it's an amazingly vibrant space, and there are some phenomenal people that I've met in the last couple of years, and again, who have nothing but good ideals and view and understand where this can take us all. But yeah, it's yeah, less than desirable in some aspects.
It's a journey, as they say. So
Yeah.
tell me more about your artist that you're going to be exhibiting and doing the collection for at this event, Guy Stauber. Am I saying it right?
Yes. Yeah. Guy Stiver. Guy's been with us at KJ Artists since 2010, I believe. And we've always got on really well. We've always had a fantastic working relationship. He's uber talented. He can turn his hand to just about anything, but and his repertoire is incredible, but his client list is also equally incredible. I mean, he works within the Disney franchise a lot. He's worked recently on the Black Panther movies. He's worked on Star Wars, Mandalorian, Wall Street Journal. You name it, he's done it. And whilst he may not have 1 million followers on Instagram or Twitter or whatever else, the reason he doesn't have that, he's simply flat out working all the time. He's a man in demand.
He's doing what an artist does.
Yeah, and you know what, he does what he's really good at, and is really good at creating fantastic, engaging art. And yeah, I think as an individual artist, it's very hard to have the discipline, not necessarily the discipline, but the skills to be able to cover so many bases when you're literally, I mean, at the moment, I had a Zoom meeting with him this morning, and we only made it 40 minutes, although we had a lot of stuff to cover on his upcoming NFT launch. But he has to get back to work, and he's working 18-hour days at the moment. So that's just doing what he's commissioned to do at the moment. So yeah, it's very hard to, but his collection that he's created for launch on the 24th of June is called Digital Punk, and it's a sort of Sex Pistols meets Tokyo futurism, and yeah, it's definitely got a bit of Sex Pistols swagger to them. And again, we launched with him because he was so engaged when we first talked to all of our artists about NFTs, and he really jumped in and understood the potential and yeah, what it can mean to him in terms of freedom of expression. And
so you're launching the NFT collection. How many is in the collection?
There's 999.
Okay, and it's going to be on your launchpad, whitelightnft.io. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
But it's also at the event itself. You've done some fine art prints, I understand.
Yeah. What we talked to Guy about was him actually producing some limited number of the digital punks that we are having printed as one of one, so that each one is unique, each one is signed by him, and it's one of one, so it has authenticity. And anybody that buys one at the Hurlingham Club event will also get an NFT free as well with it, of one of his 999 collection of NFTs.
And the auction, you'll be auctioning these limited edition prints with signed prints at the actual. So it's a mixture of New World and Old World, I guess. Auction at the and then tell me, I understand there's a charitable function as well.
Yes, I had a very bizarre, inadvertent meeting with a really lovely guy, Kaya Miqbal, and I was having dinner in a restaurant outside last summer, and he was sitting with his wife at the next table, and my partner and I were talking about what we were doing within the business and the NFT side and things, and he just casually overheard, and he leant over and he said, "I hope you don't mind me butting in." He said, "I wasn't really earwigging, but I heard you mention NFTs, and I'm really into NFTs, and we've just minted one, and I run a charity." And I said, "Oh, tell me about the charity." So he told me about Oppo Foundation that he set up, and I was really interested, and he invited me to an event at Les Ambassadeurs Club in Mayfair a couple of weeks later, and it just blew me away. The charity basically helps ex-military and service men and women with whatever help they need, whether it be from mental trauma as a result of sort of post-traumatic stress, or whether it was the physical trauma that they've lost limbs in combat. And yeah, it just resonated. They presented 5 or 6 wheelchairs, I think, in the summer last year at the event, to people that were totally unsuspecting. These people were competing at a pretty high level in disabled and Paralympian type games, but they didn't have the equipment to be able to compete on the highest level. So the charity has bought them wheelchairs that are custom built, speciality. It's like going from driving a Mini to driving a Ferrari. It allows them to compete on an equal standing. And the effect that it had on them visually, to see, they were just blown away, because they didn't know they were going to get presented. They knew there was a presentation of some sort, but they didn't know it was for them and what it was. And
it sounds a very practical charity, doesn't it? You know, often charity, you're right, you present it with a trophy, lovely, but actually, you know what, give me the wheelchair. It sounds very sensible. So you're hoping to raise money at the event, raise awareness, and also to launch the NFT collection as well. Obviously, that's the whole thing behind it. So just tell me finally, Kevin, future of NFTs. So what's going to happen in the future? Do you have a vision for what these NFTs might offer, and your other artists as well?
What, as in the future of NFTs, or the future of NFTs with our own artists?
Both.
Okay. Well, as you more than well know, I think the whole future of NFTs is unfolding daily. Ultimately, it can be a means to authenticate anything physical in the real world, and that side of things is just going to increase more and more. It's, you know, tokenization of real world assets can facilitate, I don't know how's the best way to say it, fractionalization. People can buy NFTs that allows them to buy property, or as a fraction of a property, and things that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to afford. It's a cliche to say, but the only limit to NFTs in the future is going to be people's imagination, and people are pretty imaginative in this place. I think it can be applied to so many different things, you know, from, even if it's just in legal format, a way of encapsulating an agreement. It's just mind-blowing.
We're just starting, I guess, aren't we? There was the rush of the digital art, but now we're starting with all the other utilities. And for your artists, so obviously Guy is the first one. Do you see this going forward with your artists, with your launchpad?
Oh yes, I mean we already have a pipeline of phenomenal artists. We're thinking we're going to be, our second launch will be with, again, one of the people that've been with us for a very long time at KJA, a guy called Ross Cuthbert, and he's just unbelievable, and he's got a brilliant imagination, and he's come up with something called Daisy Donut, and it's just it's hysterical. It's and he's so great in 3D, and as a sort of Photoshop illustrator with multidisciplinary talents, he brings all of that to what he's very tongue-in-cheek brought to his NFTs. So it's watch this space, and I defy anybody not to see them and want to buy them. They are fantastic. They put a smile on everybody's face.
And when you say watch this space, what space do you want people to watch?
Okay, well, on our Discord, and on our Twitter, and of course on the website itself, whitelightnft.io. Any time of day, go and have a check and see some of the future drops that we're going to do. And yeah, it's a really exciting. It's the work is insane. We've been so immersed in this for so long, but the rewards are phenomenal. Just to see that we can hopefully find a new and refreshing avenue for our artists to express themselves and outlet into the world.
Brilliant. And you've got a lot of artists lined up there, say almost 500. So you could be kept busy. No chance of retiring. Forget this Bill Gates stuff. You're going to be working for a long time to come.
Yes, unfortunately. I also have a 12-year-old son, so yeah, no chance of retiring.
No. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating. Good luck at the auction and at the event in the Hurlington Club. And as I say, whitelightnft.io being the website, the launchpad for people to keep an eye out for the future and upcoming drops.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Gillian, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.